So, welcome, Lori.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
And it's good to have this conversation with you, and then, as I said before, we'll open it up to the group. I just want to start with, the Dean gave some introduction for you, and there's some they see from the flyer that's on the board, but if you could talk a little bit about your career path and some of the milestones within that, that'd be appreciated start.
Okay, great. I'll start with where I'm at now, and then just kind of go back to the beginning. Working for PNC Wealth Management, as some of you know, PNC is a bank. We're located, headquartered in Pittsburgh. We came into this market about 4 years ago. We only have 35 branches in southeast Wisconsin, but we are the 5th largest bank in the country. So we acquired a bank here that was only here for a short time as well, called National City, and have expanded and opened 11 new branches, one of which is right across the street here on Fort Washington Road. So we're committed to the community, and the way PNC does business is to be committed to our communities, both with providing services for our clients, but also being involved with volunteerism and philanthropic dollars. So I head the wealth management group for PNC for the state of Wisconsin. I started 3 years ago. I was recruited, wooed over to PNC to start and build their wealth management business, which is an opportunity that I never had before, to start with literally zero people, zero business, and grow it from scratch. And it's been an exciting and awesome opportunity, and I'm having a blast with it. We'll get more into that. So I have a wealth management group. I have 12 employees on my team. We provide wealth management advice, consultation, strategy for our clients to help them with their investment dollars, their banking, and then their future planning for their retirement or college education funding for their kids, or to buy a second home, or whatever it might be. So that's what I'm doing now. It's been an exciting career that started with me literally in high school. Tell me when to stop. In high school, my boyfriend was going to MSOE for an engineering degree, and I didn't know what I was doing, and his mom, who was a teacher, she had a master's degree in teaching, sat me down one day, real casually, but she said, "So what are you going to do, Lori, with your life?" I said, "I don't know." She said, "Well, what do you like to do?" I said, "Well, I really worked at the bakery when I was in high school, and that's about all I've ever done." So I really, truly had no idea what I was going to do. And my parents were more traditional. I have 2 older brothers. They went to college. One of them has a law degree, and the other was an engineering degree. And I was not expected to go to school because I was a woman. I was the youngest. I was kind of a spoiled little baby of the family. So I was expected to find somebody to marry and live happily ever after. Fortunately, I was smart enough to say, that doesn't sound like that's right for me. And I know, unfortunately, that happily ever after doesn't happen very often. So I literally walked after my boyfriend's mom asking me a number of questions about what do I like to do, and then her observations of what I do well, in her opinion. She said, you'd be great working in a bank. You're working with people. She said, you're very comfortable with people. You have good communication skills. So why don't you go down to the bank, a couple blocks away. I think they had a, for hire side in their window when I was there the other day. So I literally walked down the block, went into the bank branch, said, "I see your big sign. Do you have any jobs?" I had to sit and wait to talk to one of the men at the desks that were the bosses. And by the time I left, they asked me if I wanted 1 or 2 jobs. And that's how I started in banking. And I'm still in banking, and that's almost 30 years ago. And I have segued a couple of times out of banking, but always in the financial business. I raised money for a hospital for a couple of years, and I worked for an insurance company for a couple of years. But other than that, I've been in the banking industry, which at the time I started was truly a male-dominated industry. It is less so today, but it is still, unfortunately, when you look at the senior management of most banks and their board of directors, they are predominantly men. But women are making progress. I'm not going to just speak to women, because there are a lot of guys here too. But there are some unique challenges to being a woman in a male-dominated business that I didn't so much consciously plan through, but I was talking to another group earlier today, and as I progressed throughout my career, I never turned down a challenge. When somebody said, are you willing to do this job, take on this extra task, this extra responsibility? Oftentimes in banking, it was with no extra money, so it was just do more work. some people probably, and I know they did, said, oh, no, I don't think so. I think the job I'm doing, my job description is this, and that's what I'm going to do. Well, one thing my parents did teach me, besides not bother to go to college, but they did teach me a good thing, which was to never turn down an opportunity and not argue or fight over the money. Do the job and the money will come and the career progression will come. And so I took on any challenge and moved throughout my career to many different levels and positions, to different institutions, but sometimes I decided the culture of a company wasn't right for me. And if anyone wants to talk about cultures of company, things like that, I'm going to write a book someday, because I believe that if I can figure out and write a book about how to, during an interview process, fully understand the culture that you're going to be joining with a company and what to avoid, and to not make those mistakes that I and probably a lot of you in the room have made, I'd make $1 million, because until you really get into a company, I'm not sure that there is a way to understand what the real culture is, what it's going to be like, how are you going to feel working there, how are people going to treat you. But it's something that's really important.
Can you, and maybe we'll come back to that, your role as a woman in a traditionally male industry, which you just spoke to a little bit. I'm curious too, you talked about the right fit, and along the way in several of our classes, we talked about making decisions that are aligned with our values. So can you talk a bit about how that's been for you? Have you been able to practice what you preach, or make decisions that really feel right and fit right?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. And as I progressed in my career, I probably didn't realize it in my early years. I happened to the second company I worked for was the old First Star Bank, which is now U.S. Bank. And First Star Bank was locally owned at the time and had a culture that was very family-oriented, very inviting, very nurturing. And I did really well there. That was probably the turning point in my career. Not probably, it was the turning point in my career, where I was given opportunities and people believed in me and what I could do before I believed in myself. And I will never forget that and never forget the opportunities that I had. But that culture was just a good fit for me, because I cared about my customers and my bosses cared about me, and the big bosses of the company cared about all of us. Unfortunately, I made a few career moves after that I had great opportunities, great career advancements. Income was better than what I was making, and everything sounded great when I was talking about writing a book about how to understand the culture you were entering into before you get there. I wish I'd known how to write a book back then. But I worked for a bank out of Chicago, and I worked with a team that I felt their practices were not very ethical, and they really weren't. They were in it for the money, and I unfortunately was aligned with this team, and after less than a couple of years, I mean, it took me a while to figure out what exactly, it wasn't illegal, it was unethical. It was unethical the way they were doing business. And I just said, I can't stay here anymore. And I fortunately I had a great opportunity with another bank that had contacted me and started to talk to me before I got to that crisis point where I was at a meeting with these guys, and I said, I cannot work with these. What they're doing just isn't right. So fortunately, I'd sort of done some networking before things hit a crucial point, because I just had a feeling that in my gut this wasn't right for me. And now I'm with a company, PNC, and I say to everybody that it's back to what the First Star Bank was like back in the old days, where we care about our employees. Our mission is to make sure our customers are satisfied, happy, and we're exceeding their expectations. And we as employees are treated with respect and highly regarded and taken care of. And so it's kind of finally back home to where I really know that the culture fits with me, and I work harder than I've ever worked and happier than I've ever been.
In that path, it's something I know that's near and dear to you, and I think relates to what you just talked about, is having mentors along the way. And could you speak a bit to the role mentors have played for you, and if you have suggestions on how to find a mentor that's a good fit?
Yeah, currently I am a member of a women's organization called Professional Dimension, and I am involved in their mentor program, and was aligned with a person, a mentee, about a year ago, and thought, it's time for me to give back. I do a lot of board-related things, but I hadn't mentored anybody formally in a while. So this is a formal mentoring program. It had kind of parameters to follow. What was interesting is that when we were first aligned together, neither one of us knew why they put us together, because there didn't seem to be anything in common. She was in the restaurant business for a long time. When she got out of college, she was in the software sales business. So I was like, I'm not quite sure where the fit is. Well, fortunately, as we took time to get to know each other, which is what's really important when you're seeking a mentor or when you yourself are a mentor, is don't just assume that the mentor is going to come in and have all your answers. It's really getting to know each other personally, know a little bit about your background, know your strengths and weaknesses, things you're concerned about, things that are going well. We then, within a few months, found exactly, really, even the person who put us together didn't know. She was given an opportunity to move into the wealth management business at an entry level, because she's 29 years old or whatever. And so I was a complete confidant. I was the only person that knew she was pursuing this opportunity. She had a million questions. She really struggled with making the decision of leaving a job she was really successful at and starting over. And she, in turn, has been very helpful for me with one of my daughters who is out of college but looking for a job in the field, who's working in the restaurant business and kind of struggling, and she's offered so much help and advice for her. So there's formal mentoring programs like that can work out really well. A lot of companies provide mentor programs, so if you end up working for a company that has a mentor-mentee program, look into it. Some, honestly, are better than others. The other is finding people along the way that you are working for. My first mentor was, I'm still in touch with. She was my boss. She was only on the job for about 5 or 6 months before she had her baby. And so I worked closely with her for 5 or 6 months. I was really young. I'd never been in management before. And she headed up the customer service area at this bank that I was working at. And she took me under her wing. I sat at the desk next to her and I listened to how she talked to clients. I listened to how she talked to managers. I listened to how she talked to the staff. And by the time she was ready to go on maternity leave, she asked me, or the management asked me to take her spot. And I was so not ready for it. I was so shocked that they asked me. But during that time period of her really just teaching me everything that she could in a more informal way by letting me observe her and then I could ask her questions. And one time she went into one of the boss's office, and then I'll stop. She yelled at one of the managers, or the vice presidents at the time, and she was one level under this guy. And she went into his office and yelled at him about something. And so I thought, well, I can do that too. So after she's gone on maternity leave, I was kind of upset about something, and this is not my personality type at all. So I go into the office and I start yelling at Bob. And I just saw him a few months ago. He's been long retired, and he remembered me coming in and yelling at him. Because it went so bad. It was I swear they thought this person is a loser. We're going to get rid of her as soon as we can. Well, we patched it over, but I learned a pretty valuable lesson that she had gained a level of mutual respect and trust with this person that she could do that. Somehow I thought, well, I guess that means I can do it too. But I had no relationship with him, and there was no trust established, so lesson learned.
Yeah. Something you said earlier to another group, and it just came up again about, you mentioned the word networking, but you also talked about in banking that success is a lot about the relationships that you've got. And so clearly the connection between being able to be an effective network and being an effective banker in terms of developing relationships. Can you speak to that, some networking aspects, and then also what makes a successful banker?
Okay, thanks. I'm going to talk a little bit about networking, and I'm going to use an example of a student of yours. And I also mentored a student from MSOE not that long ago that one of the vice presidents asked did I meet with him. So occasionally I'll get a call from a university about a good student that's looking to understand what industry do they want to go into and get some hands-on experience before they take that next step and get a master's degree in something or take a job somewhere. And what I really enjoy and appreciate is when a young person in general, usually older people mentor younger, it isn't always that way, but it's that way with me, is professionally aggressive, I call it. Is this student reached out to me and asked if he could meet with me and interview me. And I said, sure, absolutely, we'll get that scheduled. And then he asked, well, what other kind of things can I do that day that I'm there? I have all day, so what can I do? And we kind of chatted back and forth and put together a schedule of things for him to do. And he followed up with me. He asked me what information he should bring to the day. He followed up with me afterward to see if we had any kind of internships available at PNC in Milwaukee. And so networking when you're in school, networking when you're in your current position, to me is absolutely critical for future success. I said to Mark that I have not looked for a job or filled out a job application in probably, it could be 25 years, but I can comfortably say 20 years. That every job opportunity that I've had is through people that I've met, either through banking or through boards that I'm on or through social settings, that when I was starting to think about doing something different or they were thinking about adding a person and they met me, they either called me or I called them and we just went out for coffee and talked. And so that networking, sometimes people feel it's a very structured thing that you have to do and you have to walk into a room of 100 people and start shaking hands and meeting and greeting, as we call it. But networking is really taking the opportunity to meet people where you feel that they can help you or you can help them or you feel a connection and making sure you get their contact information and follow up with them and send them. I'm from old school. Well, I'm not doing it as much. I used to do handwritten notes. I do a lot more email now. Or just call them up and say, I met you the other day. Thank you for taking time to chat with me then. Would you have 20 minutes to a half hour to have a cup of coffee? Because I'd love to ask you a couple of questions. Rarely does somebody they themselves have progressed in their career, rarely will they say, no, sorry. They might say, now's a bad time. Can you give me a month or so because we're on a project or whatever it is. But making that connection and doing more than just say, can I have your business card? Get some rapport going, have some conversation, whether you get somebody you're working with, somebody that you're in class with. I was just talking to a group of students that I see back there, and I said, make sure you take advantage of the students that are in your room and stay in touch with them, because down the road you're going to remember that Sue was working at Wells Fargo Mortgage Company and you want to maybe try to get a job there. So you can call Sue and say, remember me, we were in class together? Is there anybody there that I can talk to about getting a position? And those kinds of connections and follow-up and just building relationships and rapport with people in lots of industries. I'm going to say probably more so in some than others, but are really key to having a successful business that you own or a career in business or finance or accounting or software company, whatever it may be.
And I take it from what you said earlier that you apply some of those same principles to be successful in your role as a banker.
Oh, yeah, talking about banking, yes. Okay. Yeah. Particularly in the type of banking that we do in wealth management. Wealth management just means we have a narrowly defined group of clients that we work with that have more larger financial assets that they've gathered and more sophisticated problems and solutions that they need. So our relationships with our clients are very close. I mean, I literally go to funerals, weddings, birthday parties. My clients just bought a new condo in Florida, and they said, I got a text from them saying, when are you coming down? Here's the dates you can come down between this and this, because everyone wants to come down and see what takes place. And so we do things together like that. Now, not every client I'm that close with, but they're one of my favorite and longest time clients. But banking in particular, and a lot of service-related businesses, Jane, your business is all about service and relationship. You have to have a good quality product, but it's all about your service and your relationship and how you treat people. So you apply it to every industry that you could be in, and that relationship, and not just doing a product, selling a product, doing a transaction. It's all about, our job as bankers is to look at a client situation, and I was in retail banking for U.S. Bank for 10 years, and we applied the same thing. We looked at each client, looked at how we could help them, what ideas could we share with them, how could we make their financial lives better, and work with them to understand their situation, offer solutions, help them implement them, and make sure that we're doing the right thing for our clients. So banking is really, to me, it's relationship. Yeah, there's a lot of numbers and there's money and all that, but it's really about relationships.
I'm going to ask one last question for now, and then we'll open it up. So you talked some about your success, and I want to now think about everyone in the room's success. And if someone here was wanting a job at PNC, and they applied, and they were interviewing you, aside from their Stritch diploma, which I'm sure would get them a leg up, what else would you say is important for us to think about?
Yeah, I do. I actually very much, when somebody's a Cardinal Stritch grad or in the school at Cardinal Stritch, I will give them their resume a second look for sure. I absolutely do. Because I know what it's like to go to school here. I know what's expected. I know the discipline and the rigor and the hours and, and the evening programs that you work all day and then you come to school at night and you're tired and then you're writing papers. I remember my kids were little. When I was in my undergrad program, I was writing papers at 12, 1, 2 in the morning. Baby would cry, go down the hall, baby bottle, come back and finish my paper, and get up the next day and put in a full day. So I know what it's like. And so that is true. I do look. And I know a lot of people that hire employees look at where they went to school and look for that connection. The other thing that I look for that's really important is that doing a little bit above and beyond, being a little bit professionally aggressive, again, I call it, meaning meeting me. I have had a couple of people at sessions like this that I've met that have followed up with me and asked me to meet with them either to get on the advisory board, that's how that happened, or to help them with a job that they were actually applying for a job at PNC and wanted to know if I could help them. So that to me is professionally aggressive. You're not hounding me and calling me every day or sending me 100 emails, but you take the time to follow up with me, remind me who you are, politely ask for my help in a small amount of time, and I will absolutely take time to help people. The third thing is so much, as I was just saying, is about the business world, the business community, is your personality, your rapport building skills, your follow-up, with thank you notes and things like that. So I've met some people that really look good on paper. I have one guy in mind in particular that didn't follow up with me. He met with me, we spent an hour together, I gave all kinds of advice and ideas on who to follow up with and what to do, and I never got a thank you note, I never got an email. Sure, maybe 6 weeks later, I get a follow-up, and I was like, you just blew it for me. I mean, that's just too long of a time. So I as a hiring manager look for people to go just a little bit above and beyond. Make sure you thank me, make sure you follow up. I had one woman follow up and say, I might not be the right person for this job, but I actually know somebody at another institution that I used to work with. If you'd like her contact information, I'd be happy to make an introduction. She stands out in my mind, and when I have an opportunity for her, I remember her name, I've got a resume in a file, and I'll go back to it.
Thanks. Well, let's open it up, and first let's see if we can
Hop the stairs.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna hop. It's gonna be like a princess.
So Lori covered a lot of different areas, whether it's a woman in banking or talking about making decisions aligned with values, some about networking. We just want to open it up. And you also can see a little bit more of her background if you haven't read about it here. A lot of her service work. Dr. Holbrook talked about her roles here as president of our alumni association, of the current chair of our board, and she's done lots of other service work over the years. So I'd like to open it up and see if we have some questions. Yeah. And so I'll just ask folks to stand up and speak into the mic so we can hear you.
What is the job outlook in finance industry, and what is the educational background that employers are looking for?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My name is Myron.
Myron? Hi, Myron. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, in finance, and let's segment that into banking first. There is a change going on in banking that is technology related. And when I started in banking the little branch bank that I walked into when I was 17 years old, had a line of tellers with about 10 tellers in it. It went around the corner, and there were 5 more on that side. Those 5 were business tellers, and the other 10 were retail tellers. And this was in a little suburb of Milwaukee, not like a downtown location. Well, we, PNC, and lots of other banks, some are farther ahead in the curve than others, are changing the whole branch setup. And that there will be, if there is even a teller line, there'll be 1 teller. And our employees right now are being trained to be universal bankers. And a universal banker stands up at a standing desk when you first come in the door. They greet the person, they say, "How can I help you today?" And if it's a deposit or cashing a check, they may hand them over to a teller, or they may take them to a desk and say, "We'll take care of your transaction here. But first, let me walk you over to the ATM and show you how you can do it yourself." Because there's almost no transaction that can't be done through a debit card and an ATM today. You can deposit a stack of checks this high, you can get coins, you can do everything. At least we're evolving to that. So the teller job, more traditional teller jobs are really going away. We will be reallocating our teller positions into other jobs over the course of the next couple of years. We don't hope to have to let any go. We're trying to find, as people leave, we are moving them into other people into their spots. So that's a big change, and that's impacting a lot of people. But the banking industry, the finance industry alone, overall, as you look into being one of the bankers that sits at the desk that makes a loan or gives you advice on how to plan for retirement or plan for saving for education for your kids or whatever it might be, or pay off some debt and how to get a budget going, those jobs are still going to be there and aren't being diminished. In banking, I got to a point in my career where I think I was an assistant vice president and worked some job, I don't remember exactly what I was doing, but my boss said to me, "Lori, unfortunately, you will not be able to go any higher without a college degree. You absolutely need to have a college degree to go to higher levels within our company." So that's what brought me to Stritch. So not every job in the finance industry requires a bachelor's degree, but most do. Many do, in the more technical jobs, require a master's degree, either an MBA or an MSM. Technical meaning you're actually investing somebody's money, you're doing a financial plan, you're putting together a budget and refinancing a mortgage. Most of the people, well, I'd say maybe half have a master's degree. It's not required. Then when you get into like senior management levels, I think most of us, it's expected that you have a master's degree. So, as you progress through different levels, more and more is required as far as education. But with the aging of the baby boomers, which I'm one of, there is a really growing segment of jobs for helping people learn how to properly save and plan and then manage their money once they retire. And that could be at a brokerage firm, Morgan Stanley or Robert W. Baird, or it could be at a bank. Those jobs are expanding because there's so many of us old people getting older and either realizing we haven't accumulated enough or needing advice because we have accumulated and how to make sure it lasts until we're not here any longer. So that would be a segment that is growing.
Curious, since I'm walking over here, how many people have worked at a bank in this room in some way?
A lot. Wow.
Interesting.
How many are currently working at a bank? A few. That's all right. No, it's an industry that is not right for everybody for lots of different reasons, and it's one that worked out for me. But it's not a bad place to take a job and to move from. It's a good stepping stone job. I can tell you a lot of time. Hi.
Hi, Lori. My name is Troy.
Hi, Troy.
And that kind of segues into my next question, actually. I used to work for a bank back in 2008. So, with that being said, I was going to say, what advice or insight can you provide to someone who has kind of a bad stigmata of the banking industry, ever since the 2008 banking crisis? Can you offer any type of insight on, obviously, you can't foresee if it happens again, but you can maybe share some insight on that.
Let me ask you a specific question. Were you in the credit or mortgage area at all?
I was a personal banker.
Personal banker, okay. So in 2008, 2009 was one of the worst financial crises that this country experienced. Some believe that it was actually worse than the Depression, and it was in its magnitude, and how quickly and how much money the economy lost, and then how quickly, well, not quickly, but how it ultimately came back. Whereas the Depression, the dollars were smaller because it was back in the 30s, the magnitude of the drop was not as deep as 2018. So it was bad. It was really bad. And lots of bankers lost their jobs. Lots of people related to credit and mortgages and finance lost their jobs. Excuse me, that reminds me of that politician that grabbed a weird bottle of water while he was giving a speech that was on all the news for a week. I hope I didn't actually have my water. So there was particularly a bad time in the banking industry. Some people, my investment advisor that's on my team, does not believe that magnitude of a drop or devastating change in the economy is destined to happen for maybe under 50 years. The economy does go up and down, and that will always happen. I think that there are new companies, there are new banks in town. PNC is one, BMO Harris is another. I don't know much about the culture there, but there are new players in town that bring in a different approach than maybe some of the institutions that have been here that went through some trouble. So the atmosphere, in my opinion, because I went through it, banks are a much more fun place to work today than they were back then. It was not fun when your customers were losing their homes, when the bank was losing money, when employees were getting laid off. It was not a fun time to be in banking. Fortunately, we're on the upswing, the economy's on the upswing, even though it's slower than we like, but it is improving and growing. And that in that area of bankers that work with clients on their retirement planning, saving, investing, budgeting, financial planning, those areas are really going to be growing. And so that could be something too. Like we have personal bankers that also are licensed to sell investments and that work with financial planning with our clients. So it's a little bit higher level position, and we're looking to add in that space because of the aging population. So hopefully that helps.
Lori, this is David. Our class right now is covering ethics, and one of the topics today is leadership. And one of the articles is about a distinctive leadership style of women. And is there actually, does one think ethically differently? Does one approach integrating values into the work different? And so working in a setting where oftentimes it's been more male-dominated, any reflections on either your own style or what you've observed around that time?
Fortunately, he primed me earlier and told me he was going to ask this question because I actually had to think a little bit about it. So it's a really good question. First, I will say that as I was growing through my career, again, when I was very young, it was very, very male-dominated, and is now maybe in senior management positions, it's maybe more like 50-50, and when I started, it was literally 2-3% women and the rest all men. So it's changed a lot, which is great news, and it's continuing to. I'll speak about it in two ways. One about the ethical aspect, and the other about just about how to be a successful woman leader, because there's some things that are overlap and some that don't. So, as far as being a woman leader, one of the things that I did do, I hope it doesn't sound too strange, but I thought I need to mirror how the men in meetings act, and not so much dress, but sort of. If it's a really conservative suit and tie kind of company, I better wear a suit because the guys wear suits. So if I'm going to be looked at as somebody that could be a manager or leader, I need to look like them, I need to sound like them, I need to act like them. I did that for a while, and then at one point I realized there's some good to that, but I also thought I need to be myself. I need to be who I am, because in the long run, if I continue to just be a chameleon and try to act like the guys around the table, it's not going to work. It'll work for a while, but ultimately I need to be myself to demonstrate the strengths that I bring that are different than the men around the table. So I think today women can get to that point faster than I did, because I did start so long ago. But there is an element of looking at the culture of the company, looking at the people you work with, who your managers are and how they behave, how your peers and people that are moving up look and act and behave, and making sure you fit in. But also you've got to be true to yourself, and you have to let your real personality come through. So, you know, things simple as, I used to actually wear these stupid little ties, but then I was like, oh my God. So, I mean, I got over that, and now I wear scarves and, you know, try to do things that are a little bit trendy in a conservative environment. So that's just the practical side. The ethical side is interesting. I think absolutely women are held to a different standard as far as behavior and ethics in a business setting. I can only speak for the finance world. In that the guys can go out. I just had a team meeting, and we took curling lessons, so we all learned how to curl. So you think that's really easy. Well, I've got a bruise on my hand, and I cracked a bruise on my, well, anyway, I fell all over the place. So it's not that easy to curl. But anyway, we went curling, and then afterwards, a couple of the guys went to the bar across the street and got home at 4 a.m, and their wives were totally ticked off at them. So they come in the morning and said, what the heck were you guys thinking? I mean, I didn't care for me personally. I said, you should have called your wife, and you should have been home. But if I had done that and gone home 3, 4 in the morning, as a woman, it just would be perceived differently. And it would be, to me, demonstrating a different kind of person. So I think women are held to a standard of being a little bit more following the rules and the guidelines. And I think men still can get away with more on the edges. And I just think that's where our society is. We haven't quite gotten there yet. Things are changing. So that's one thing. And the other thing I want to comment on is something and you can relate to this because you know the ladies in the book club, right? You've met them. So I'm in this great book club, absolutely awesome book club. There's 8 of us. And we get together every other month and read all kinds of different interesting books. And this group of women they're pretty diverse, but a number of them are CEOs of companies, so or executive level people in big companies. And we observe each other. We have a great time together. We actually travel and read books sometimes, and it's wonderful. We have incredibly engaging conversations. But I've observed a style with some of our ladies that are our CEO level ladies that is different than me, because I'm not quite a CEO yet. I'm a level below that, but that to me indicates that to be really successful as a woman in the finance industry, you may need to be a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more, I'll say the B word, but I'm not going to say the word, in getting your way and being very demanding about it, very strict and structured. And I have asked myself, do I ever want to really be like that? Because it isn't me. And I believe that in some industries, those women can get ahead faster. That's okay, because that's not me, and I'll get there. And I'll get there by being myself. And so it's not so much ethics, but it's more behaviors, I guess. And I hope that answered the question.
We have time for one last question. Anyone else has a question? Anyone else?
Now I was going to talk about networking more. How important it is.
No.
No.
Woman who has
Hi, thank you. My name is Suzanne, and actually I'm going to ask about networking.
Okay.
For individuals who may not be so confident in the networking and are really just getting more comfortable with it, what suggestions do you have for them to build the confidence and just become better at it?
That is exactly what I wanted to talk about. I'll give you a little story and then I'll answer the question. A guy that works for me has been a manager for 30 years. He's thinking about starting to retire. He's been around a long time. Knows his job, hands down. He's one of the best in the city. I'm so happy and excited to have him on my team. He just said to me when we were doing an exercise as a team to build our team, and we were talking about some things about ourselves. I wanted everybody to share a story about themselves that was a little bit uncomfortable, and as a way to get the team together. But anyway, he said to me, he said, Lori, so when you told me that I had to start to go to networking events when you hired me, and he's been in the business 30 years, he said, I was terrified. He said, I hate walking into a room with 50 or 100 or 150 people where I don't know anybody. And then you look around and you're like, oh my God, I don't know soul. And he said, but you made me do it. I watched you and how you did it. And he said, now, and he's out of stuff all the time now. He's one of my best people on my team for going out. And what we talked about was, so yeah, and I still do. When I walk into a room, I get overwhelmed sometimes. When I literally don't know anybody, there's 150 people in the room. What I'll do is I'll look for 2 or 3 people that are standing together talking, that aren't in a real intense conversation, but they're just kind of chatting, casually. And I just go up and I say, excuse me, I don't know anybody here, so I was wondering if I could introduce myself and say hello. And nobody's ever said, get out of here. They're always like, oh, sure. They sort of say, oh, I don't know anybody here. I'm Lori Craig, I'm with PNC Bank. And ask about them, because people love to talk about themselves, right? So just ask, oh, so what do you do? Where are you from? I'm currently with PNC, and tell me about what you do. And people start talking, and then the other people in the group will start talking, and then it just progresses from there. So that was just a little thing that I've done, and that he said to me that it really helped him a lot in don't look at the whole room, just kind of say, okay, I'm just going to find a little group there and start talking to them. And then try to have that conversation, as I said earlier, that starts to build a relationship. Tell them something about you that's interesting, or maybe tell you something about them that's interesting. And say, can I have your card? I'd love to follow up and have a cup of coffee with you sometime. We always do the cup of coffee thing. It's a baker thing. That and play golf. So that helped. Are you thinking about the bigger group networking kind of things?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the hardest. The ones where like you've got a classmate 2 years from now, you remember they worked at Wells Fargo or wherever, and you can pick up the phone and call and say, can I ask you a few questions? Can you maybe help me? Those are easier, but it's the big group ones that